Welcome to Connect to Joy. Your host, Carol DeChaine, is an intuitive spiritual guide for practical matters and marconic multidimensional energy practitioner. Her quest is to help you realize new possibilities, discover and release what holds you back, and enable you to manifest an inspired life filled with joy. Join us on this journey of transformation. Now, here's your host, Carol DeChaine.
Welcome, beautiful spirits. I realized when some of my listeners requested a show on manifesting that it's been quite a while since I've done one, probably in the middle of season 1. The energies out there are such that manifesting can happen almost instantaneously, whether we want what we put out in the universe or we don't. I mean, we're manifesting stuff in our life whether we're aware we're doing it or not. And if you see something show up in your life and you go, "What? Why is this happening?" Maybe it's time to start manifesting with purpose. And then, of course, there are times that we're consciously trying to manifest a goal or a desire, and either nothing happens or it comes all out kind of kerflooey or catawampus, or you know what I mean. It's just off, or it's missing pieces that we thought we wanted. Today I'm going to talk about what manifesting means, why we might want to choose it more consciously. When you try to manifest, what does it look like? The good, the bad, and the indifferent. 2 huge secrets of manifesting. I'll share my 6 steps to manifest whatever you want and to give you some real-world examples of how it works. 8 mistakes to avoid when attempting to manifest something. And lastly, how to tell if a long-term manifestation is going to appear. Because sometimes we put it out there and want it to happen, and it's going to take a while to happen. So we're wondering, hello, where do we go from here? Let's start with, what is this thing called manifesting? Everybody kind of knows what their own interpretation of it is, and I've seen a number of definitions online, but the simplest definition I found that follows what I'm talking about is to create something or turn something from an idea into a reality. To take it a step further and talk about spiritual manifesting, it's a practice that uses the awareness that every I, or every individual, is also part of the group, of the we, and that when we connect with the unified field in a conscious and focused manner, you change your reality. Like I said last week, scientists have proven that not only humans, but everything is made up of energy. It can have different frequencies and different rates of movement or vibration, but we're still all connected to this unified field. Manifesting is simply, or maybe I shouldn't use that word, simply, but it's taking that energy that everything is made from and reworking it into what we want. The problem is that we can do it consciously or totally unconsciously, and we're manifesting all the time, whether we know it or not. For example, having something break at an inopportune time, maybe because we don't want to do or finish what we're working on, and our subconscious found a way out for us, and the universe responded. So it broke something. I remember when I was working full-time, I especially had problems manifesting my computer crashing when I was on a deadline, and I didn't really want to do it. Maybe that might sound familiar to you, something like that. If you have something you don't want in your life and you can't figure out why, it's true there is a bigger plan, and you might find out what it is later, but it's also true, at least in my belief, that we manifested it or it wouldn't be in our life. So let me ask you this. Wouldn't you rather manifest with purpose and your own design and on purpose with your highest and best in mind, rather than what you might consider by accident? They say life happens when you have another plan. That means you just aren't manifesting with purpose. And I also mean that we have a thought that might be negative or thinking about something we don't want. An example is that we may have a thought that might be negative, that we consider negative, or thinking about something we don't want, and we get it. We have it in our life and you're going, wait, I didn't want that to actually occur, but, it's going to happen, Murphy's Law. Well, no, it's because you were focusing on it, that law of attraction, and you attracted it to you, right? So let's take a moment now and have you look at what happens when you specifically try to manifest something. I'm going to give you some ideas of what could happen and really concentrate on what actually happens when you try and manifest something. So you can see how maybe good of a level you are at manifesting something. So whether it's a long-term goal or something more short-term, we want certain things in our lives, of course. Maybe it's a certain career path that has many steps connected to it, a certain job you want, having your finances at a certain level, finding a life partner, a specific house or apartment to own or rent, or a city to live in, or even finding a specific type of outfit to wear for a specific occasion. And men, you may have it a little easier on that one. But we want most of the things in our life to fall into place fairly easily. Now, granted, some people might enjoy the challenge of working for some of the things in their life, so the achievement means more, but not for every single thing in our life. That would be just exhausting. So let's look at what might be happening when you manifest one of the things or situations I just mentioned, or maybe something a little smaller and like a parking spot or something. We'll go from the best case scenario to what we might consider the worst case. Just really feel on how, like I said, this goes for you. Does it usually go well? Do you get exactly what you've asked for? If so, what did you do to have the object, person, or situation come into your life? Because if it doesn't always happen, look back at how it works when it does happen to see if you can't replicate it. Maybe you got everything you asked for, but it still feels wrong or incomplete. What about that manifestation doesn't feel right? And how did you ask for it? Because maybe you didn't ask for it right. Do you usually get most of what you want, but some of the lesser important things don't happen? If you wanted a job and got everything you wanted, but you have to work a few more hours than you thought, or the commute was a tiny bit longer, it may not be as bothersome as the next possibility I'm going to go into, but it still isn't quite what you asked for. And on the other hand, maybe you usually get most of what you want, but the few things that don't happen are more major. So you consider it a mixed blessing or that you even manifested it. And in that job manifestation I just mentioned, maybe most of it came true, but your boss seems like an ogre and the pay is much less than what you wanted. Those may be important enough items that you consider the manifestation a failure and you don't take that job. Or you start looking for another one pretty darn quick after you take the first one. The fifth scenario is that most of what you wanted didn't happen, but a couple of good things came from the manifestation. But the question lies at this point is if you really see the good from those very few good things, or do you say, never mind, and you try something else? Or maybe you just learn from it and move on. And lastly, nothing happened the way you wanted. So you feel like you're looking up and saying, really? Was I that unclear? And maybe the universe is speaking in a different language from me because it really did not show up in the way I asked. And if it happens enough, you might go back to manifesting subconsciously instead of doing it on purpose and letting the universe kind of toss you around, or at least it might feel that way because you kind of give up on manifesting with purpose. Which one of those happens the most when you try to manifest something? Even looking for a parking space in a lot can show you how you manifest things. Now, if you keep listening, I'll give you my 6 steps to manifest whatever you want and the 8 mistakes we make when we try to manifest so you can avoid them. When you take both of these together, your manifesting ability should really take off, and you'll see a really crazy upswing of things you want in your life actually start happening. But before I go any further, I want to give you the 2 big secrets to manifesting whatever you want. So you paying attention? Remember when I said that everything is made up of energy? Because of that, you can literally manifest anything you want, and the size of the manifestation or the importance in your mind doesn't matter. You just move the energy around and it becomes a reality. The true secret is that the importance of the manifestation is all in our head. It doesn't matter to the universe if the manifestation is about getting a good parking spot or finding the love of your life. They both are just as simple. We only think one is harder, and so we make it harder to have it happen. I'll go into why in a bit under the 8 mistakes to avoid, but just know that every single thing should be the same amount of ease in manifesting. So if you can manifest at all, you can manifest anything. The second secret is just to practice. It doesn't matter if you haven't been able to do it in the past, or if you can only do it on something you consider unimportant. If you practice manifesting something smaller, keep working your way up to something you consider more and more important in your life. If you practice the bigger things, the ones that really matter in your life will become easier and easier to have come into reality. And isn't that exciting? So let's time now to share my 6 steps to manifesting whatever you want. I'm going to say each one, and then I'll go into them in a little more detail. So the first one is to focus and picture in your mind exactly what you want. Connect to your highest source. The third part is to set your intention in motion and ask for what you want. The fourth one is to expect it to happen. The fifth one is to be grateful that it has already been created, but also say this or something better. And lastly, to release the manifestation and trust that the universe is taking care of it. Let me go over those individually, and then I'll give you a couple of examples. So first, make sure you focus and picture in your mind exactly what you want. Have an incredibly clear intention. A snapshot is great so you can see it, or a really short video or visualization of what you want to manifest. Make sure it's clear as you can. The clearer your picture, the more the manifestation can be exactly what you want. Connect to your highest source is the second one. Don't go on to the next step without connecting to your higher source, to whatever that means to you. Be sure to ask from a higher vibration. That's the third step, to ask, but do it from a higher vibration, and again, you'll get a better result. It doesn't have to be a long meditation to get you there. Just find more peace or love or stillness in that moment, or feel lighter before you ask. The third one is to set your intention in motion. So ask for what you want. Put your attention on the positive. If you find worry or fear come up, either let them go and continue, or deal with them and start over. You don't want any negative emotions messing with your manifestation. You only want your ask to be positive and clear. And make sure it's also fairly short. You don't want 5 or 6 run-on sentences when you're asking for what you want if you can help it. It leaves too much space for the universe to interpret what you're asking for in a different way than what your intention actually is. So try and be as succinct as you can do it in your ask. And then the fourth thing is expect it to happen. If you plant a tomato seed in the ground, you trust that a tomato plant will grow if it sprouts, right? You aren't wondering if it's an ear of corn that'll grow instead or a peach tree. You expect a tomato to grow. So don't doubt the universe that your manifestation will be totally different than what you asked for. Trust that the universe has your back, that your higher power does. The fifth part is to be grateful that it has already been created, but also to say this or something better. So take a few moments to be grateful after you ask and expect it to happen. Think of how wonderful having what you want to manifest is going to be. Feel the gratitude as if it has already happened, because even though you can't see it in your reality, it's already falling into place in the universe, in the place where you can't see it. So feel grateful as though it has already happened, because it actually has. You just can't see it yet. But remember to think this or something better after you're grateful. Thank you so much, this has happened, thank you. Oh, and picture it, and then you go, this or something better. Because we honestly don't know what's best for us. We only think we do. Don't be so set on what you want that you miss out on something even better than what you can imagine, because you don't know what the universe has in store for you or where your life should be going. And then the sixth part is to release whatever it is that you want. Send it out in the universe, but then release it after you're grateful for it. Confidently and completely let it go. Know that the universe has not only heard you, but it's taking care of you. If you planted that tomato seed, you don't keep trying to dig it up and see if it's actually sprouting. You have to release it to the universe and know that it will grow in its own time. This is where I say again, trust the universe, trust the higher source, however you want to look at it. If you feel, again, fear or doubt show up at this point, you may need to start over. You may need to look at what those fears and doubts are and work on those first. I've got more on this in a few minutes. but I want to give you a couple of examples of how this manifesting can work. And the first example, they both happened to me. I was going on a date after my divorce to a restaurant in the downtown of where I live. And there's this huge one-way loop that somebody thought was a really intelligent thing to do. They installed it a few years ago. And they ended up with 5 lanes of traffic going in the same direction. Some people on the right want to go left, people on the left want to go right. So it's a little crazy. There's pretty much no parking except a few parallel spots along the side of the street. And I thought when I was going to this restaurant that there was some parking around back, so I didn't even think of trying to manifest a parking space because I didn't want to park with all these people behind me and trying to parallel park. So I thought, I'll just go around back. So I went past the restaurant and there was no parking, turned right, and then I turned right again going along the back side of it, and there was no parking lot. I was thinking of the next block where there was parking behind another restaurant, and I went, oh, whoops. So I drove again, and I thought, I better hurry up and manifest a parking space. So I went ahead and very quickly did the steps. I had the amount of time of 2 more right-hand turns and a light right before the last right-hand turn to do this, which is less than a minute. I pictured what I wanted very clearly, and I connected to my higher source as much as I could while I was driving. I asked for a parallel parking space or 2, so I could just glide into the spot without having to back in while 5 lanes of traffic were behind me. And then I expected it to happen, was grateful, said this or something better, and released it to the universe. When I got around the block to the red light, I was the first person in line to turn right, and I could see down the street. I watched as 2 people came out in what almost looked like a dance and walked around their cars at precisely the same time, got into them, and drove away. They were right in front of each other, so I had 2 parking spaces right in front of the restaurant. And while I was waiting for the red light to turn green and all the traffic to clear, I had a negative thought that someone else would get my spot, or maybe both of my spots. But I immediately banished those thoughts from my mind, and I clearly held the image of what I wanted. As the light changed, a 3rd person came out of one of the buildings, got into his car and left, leaving me with 3 spaces in a row so I could just pull my car right in. It seemed like magic. But of course, I knew it was the laws of manifestation, and it was so great when things like this happen because it really validates for you that you can do these sorts of things. Now, granted, it was just a parking space, but it felt like a huge win at the time. Now, my second example is about, well, I should have 2 examples, but they're both about connecting to the weather of the planet. And somehow I've always been able to do that, as long as I asked in advance for what I wanted, not so much right at that moment, but I could tell you a number of times when this happened, but I'm just going to share these 2 kind of fun ones. The first one is, I got a little crazy around my wedding because I kept picturing beautiful warm weather with clear skies, which everybody would do because it was an outdoor wedding. When I found out it was supposed to be around 90 in October in the San Francisco Bay Area, I thought, I better adjust this. Now, this is like 2 or 3 days before the wedding. I thought, uh-oh. So I requested it cool off to 82 or so. I asked for that. Down to the lower 80s, late, because I thought that would be good. And it was, like I said, only 2 or 3 days before the wedding date. And it happened. I mean, it was maybe 82 at the hottest. And it was only 3 days, 2 to 3 days before that I actually asked for that. So what happened? It's hard to move the weather through, I was thinking, immediately. So I did it a couple days before. But I was wrong. You can do it immediately too. The second one that I want to tell you about is when my husband at the time and I were visiting the Grand Canyon. It was supposed to rain all day and it was totally overcast. And he kept turning to me on the tour bus we took and saying, "Why didn't you fix the weather? It's still raining." He didn't actually believe I could do it particularly. And so he was kind of being sarcastic and razzing me. And I just told him not to worry about it. I'd already worked it out with the universe and I felt like everything was fine. So, and we were going first to see a movie about the Grand Canyon at the visitor center and then looking at the gift shop anyway. And then we got back on the bus when we were done with that part and he said it again. And I told him again not to worry about it and that it would be fine when we got to the overlook points because it was still sprinkling a little bit. But it wasn't raining. It was just sprinkling. I don't know why I just knew this at depth that everything would be okay. And as we got towards the overlook that we were going to go to, it started clearing up as we approached. And we didn't need our umbrellas anymore. But at the overlook, it was totally socked in. The fog was so bad, you could not see anything. It was absolutely nothing except fog below us. And he looked at me. He turned and said, "Well?" And what popped out of my mouth was, "No one told me about the fog. Give me a minute." And I went through the steps really fast and visualized what I wanted, seeing the fog moving off. And about 1 minute after I finished, my visualization happened even better than I pictured. The fog started clearing more and more until we had a perfect, clear view of the Grand Canyon within about 2 to 3 minutes. And it was totally amazing. And of course, then my husband turned to me and he said, "My God, you're a witch." He was kidding, I think, but he never acted sarcastic again. And he believed I could connect to the weather after that. It just shows you that manifesting can happen in many different ways, and quickly, almost instantaneously, or it might take a little longer depending on what we're asking for. Now, these steps can take as long as you want them to take. I've done them in a minute, or it's taken a lot of time to picture what I want in detail before finishing the rest of the steps. If negativity, worry, or fear, or anything else that comes up during the steps that feels like that's pulling you in the wrong direction, banish it the best you can, or deal with the negativity and start over. Now let's start into those 8 mistakes to avoid when we're attempting to manifest something. And listen close, because I know I've done every single one of these at one point or another. And if something doesn't manifest the way you want, or it's perfect and something still seems off, one of these needs to be adjusted. The first one is to watch out what you ask for, because sometimes all of us try to manifest something and it doesn't quite come out right. We get a person or a job that's missing some key ingredients, and when we look at what we were thinking or maybe a list we put together, we realize we didn't phrase something right and we really did get what we asked for. Or maybe you were trying to be politically correct. I've done this before. And so instead of saying you want someone who has a lot of money and you had to handle it, or say I want a multimillionaire and they are good at managing their money, you said you wanted someone who was prosperity minded because you're spiritual and you don't want to mention money because that's beneath you. Well, you might have gotten someone who attracted money or something totally different than money, but it was still considered prosperity by you, but they had no idea how to handle it and were in debt all the time. And now, an example with a list was when I was looking for a condo after my divorce. I wanted a 2-bedroom, 2-bath with lots of closets, a fireplace, no stairs in my home, a garage, and a number of other things. And I got all of them. But I didn't specify that the fireplace should be working. I still haven't used it, and I've been here, 6 years at this point. I didn't want to share the garage with the other owners, but I didn't mention that, and so I do. I have 2 other owners, which are great, but I really didn't plan on sharing and putting all of my storage in there when other people were going to be in there. I also didn't mention that there shouldn't be stairs to get from the garage to my place. There's no stairs inside, but to get from my garage are cement stairs. There's about 10 or 12 of them, and sometimes my knees give out. So it's that I look at the stairs going, all right, the next house has to be better than this. This isn't working. I also didn't mention that the walk-in closet would need to be sturdy. So when all my clothes ended up on the floor in the middle of the night when the rung broke, I shouldn't have been so surprised because I already knew about the rest of the things that were on my list that didn't come out quite right. A second example is after my divorce, I wanted more love and joy in my life. So I made it into a mantra. More love and joy, love and joy, love and joy, love and joy. I said it so fast that it sort of smushed together, which I didn't realize until I got pulled over for a really stupid thing by a highway patrolman. After I got the ticket, I looked down at it and I started laughing. I almost started crying. I was laughing so hard because the name of the officer was Officer Lovejoy. I definitely got more Lovejoy in my life, but I obviously wasn't being clear to the universe of what I actually wanted, which was love and joy. Didn't want Officer Lovejoy. So make sure that you are clear on what you want when you ask for it. Don't leave too much out. Look at how the universe would understand what you're saying or thinking. Even though your intention may be something slightly different, look at what you're saying. Because when I said I wanted a garage that I could have storage in, I didn't say I want a big enough garage to have storage in that I can have all by myself, or that I don't have to share, or however you want to do it. You want to think and ask, be clear. Another thing that we do, we ask without connecting to source. So if you ask from your little self, I'll call it, instead of connecting to a higher power to manifest, you'll be at too low a vibration to get something for your highest and your best. And you'll probably lack the awareness to see any opportunities or have any ideas to move your manifestation forward if you need to take additional steps. Being in the flow will definitely up your awareness. The third thing is that we have to be aware of the law of attraction, and if we're not, we might not be in the best place when we set a manifestation into motion. You're probably going to manifest something that doesn't work for you if you are in a negative space. When you're thinking what could go wrong, or about any part of what you're trying to manifest about something negative, or you're fearful about it, or you're angry about it, that law of attraction is going to attract those negative things that maybe won't work as well. You won't get what you asked for, and somehow it'll have that same negative spin that what you had in your mind. Basically, whatever you're thinking about, the manifestation will mirror that. Positive in knowingness versus negative or worry. And it'll just seem off, or maybe it'll be really off. Another thing that happens is that sometimes we just keep asking over and over. We're kind of checking in, going, hello, I'm just checking. Still good? Yeah, I still want it. I'm still asking. If you do that, you'll start worrying about whether something will manifest, and your mind will just go in circles over and over. And the manifestation, if it shows up at all, will not be complete or exactly what you want, because it'll just have that doubt and something strange will be in there. Once you ask the universe or your higher power, or whatever you want to refer to it as, in a prayer or in a moment of manifestation, you need to do it with conviction, knowing that you're heard, and not keep referring back to it and go, by the way, remember what I asked for? I still mean it. You don't need to go there. And trust that you've been heard and let it go. If you don't place your trust in the higher power and the laws of manifestation, you're going to start second-guessing everything. Do you even know how something is going to happen to know the manifestation will occur? I mean, if you have a remote control in your hand, you just know that if the batteries are working, if you push a button, your TV will turn on or off. The volume will go up or down, and you can change the channels. But do you really know how it works? I mean, some people do, but most of us don't. You just trust in who made the remote and that it was paired properly so that it works. Can't you have more trust in the higher power than in an individual so that you believe in the laws of manifestation and that they will work? We don't ask for this or something better. That's another thing that we do. We're so focused on what we want that we forget there might be something even better out there that the universe has in store for us. Well, for example, we might be focused on one person to marry or put all our efforts into that person, when in actuality, another person might be better for us who's right around the corner, or even somebody we already know. Another example is going into a job interview with a salary in mind and being so focused on manifesting a job with that specific amount that we don't end up even letting our interviewer tell us the amount they're considering, which could be higher. We need to be flexible. Our higher source knows way better what would work for us now and in the future. So if you ask for this and being clear about it, or something better, that something better that we might not ever have imagined could happen. And of course, we give up way too soon. That's another thing that might happen. Sometimes what appears to be a roadblock comes up, like when I got the fog at the Grand Canyon. Don't throw up your hands and give up. And sometimes, which I didn't mention earlier, there is an extra step in the manifestation process in order for that to become a reality. Sometimes we hear or we get the idea that there is another opportunity that shows up, or ideas that we can have that will make this manifestation happen faster and in a way we want. But if we're not staying in that awareness, we don't realize that those possibilities are there, those opportunities that might show up. So we give up too soon because it doesn't happen, because we weren't in our awareness. So don't give up too soon. The last one is that maybe you don't feel you deserve to have those manifestations. So we maybe have to work extra hard to have them happen, or we can't have them and we just settle for second or third best, or some odd manifestation that isn't what we really wanted. If we doubt that we deserve what we were trying to manifest, either the manifestation comes in at what we believe we can, just up to that point, or it comes to us in all its glory, but we can't accept it, and we may self-sabotage the whole manifestation. We may say no, or we may be afraid to step forward, or we may be waiting for the other shoe to drop, and so we kind of self-sabotage at that level. We may not be in a good place to have total awareness when those additional steps come up, because another thing happens is not just that we give up too soon, but that we don't feel we deserve them at all. So we just aren't even aware that we have other opportunities to make it happen or other steps we need to do, because that non-deserving or that feeling unloved or not good enough may come up in order to block those things. We just don't see them at all. You may be a master at manifesting in one area of your life, like in your job life, but maybe your love life kind of stinks, or at least it isn't what you want. You may not feel, again, that you deserve that love in your life because you feel unlovable. So look at the different areas of your life where you don't seem to be able to manifest what you want and kind of delve into them. Where are you unhappy? Meaning, what part of your life? And then look at what isn't working about that. What is working? And what do you need to be happy in that area of your life? You might want to write down these. And again, those things are what part of your life is not working. And then you're going to be looking at what part of it isn't working. I'll go back to the love life. And you're saying, what isn't working about this? Well, I attract the wrong people. I don't attract anybody. Or maybe it's, I always end up with the same kind of person. And that person is not good for me. Why do I always attract the same type? And then you look at the types of things there and make a longer list. And then what is working? Well, I do attract somebody. I do have this or I do have that. These things are working fine, but this other stuff isn't. Well, great. I'm good at manifesting this part of the puzzle. And then leaving those aside, what actually do you need to be happy? Because maybe what you're manifesting isn't really what makes you happy. It's just some of the things that's on your list. It's like the 10th through 20th thing instead of the 1 through 10. And really focus on that. You might want to enlist the aid of a friend in talking this out, or you might be more comfortable with a life coach or a therapist. But if you can figure that part out, then manifesting will be so much easier. Now, those were the 8 mistakes to avoid, and I'll go over them again at the end of the show so you can take notes if you like. So let's say you've done the steps, you think you avoided the mistakes. So how do you tell if a long-term manifestation is going to become a reality? Because some of them aren't instantaneous in your reality. They may, in the universe, have happened already, but maybe for you, you don't see it in your life yet. So occasionally you become aware of something that sparks an idea or a next step to help you manifest. I kind of mentioned that already. If that happens, you really do know you're on the right path. If you're aware of it and you're going, this is really important. I didn't realize I had to do that in order to manifest. This is great. A person shows up, an idea presents itself, an opportunity to do something or have some more experience, maybe for a job, a volunteer position. Something happens that you go, I didn't even know this sort of thing happens or existed. But you'll be aware because you're on the path and the manifestation's already there waiting for you to get there to drop into your reality when you take these next steps. Another thing that will tell you that the long-term manifestation will become a reality is when you think about what you want to manifest and what you've already done, you don't feel any worry or concern that it'll happen. You're just, you've released it. If someone else brings up the subject with a negative spin or tells you, you shouldn't do it or it'll never happen, you don't immediately jump to concern or worry or switch to how they're feeling. You just seem to know that things are going to be right. And that's how you know that those long-term manifestations are going to happen. And if those worries and concerns come up, then you need to look at it because realize that we're human and we have sometimes those little doubts that sort of show up, and maybe we need to rethink where we were when we asked for that manifestation and see why all of a sudden something that felt good is now coming up with this negative weirdness to us, where we're wondering and we're worrying about a piece of the puzzle or maybe it won't happen. So just think about that and figure out what that is. So today we've covered a lot of ground on manifesting. We've gone over what manifesting means, why we want to do it consciously. We've looked at your results when you try to manifest something, the 2 huge secrets of manifesting, my 6 steps to manifesting whatever you want, 8 mistakes to avoid, and how to tell if a long-term manifestation is going to appear. So let me give you those 6 steps and the 8 mistakes again, quickly. So 6 steps are: focus and picture in your mind exactly what you want, connect to your highest source, set your intention in motion, so ask for what you want, expect it to happen, be grateful that it has already been created, but say this or something better, and then lastly, to release the manifestation and trust that the universe is taking care of it. Those are the 6 steps. Now, the 8 mistakes to avoid are being unclear on what we ask for. We ask without connecting to source. We ask while thinking of the negative or what can go wrong, remembering the law of attraction. We keep asking over and over again. We don't trust that we've been heard and let it go. We don't ask for this or something better. We give up too soon. And sometimes we don't feel we deserve what we want to manifest. Manifesting doesn't have to be hard, but it just seems like it sometimes. Maybe you have great, what we call parking karma, but manifesting a raise or a promotion or finding decent people to date may just not work for you because they seem more important and like they should be more difficult. So they kind of are in your life. Remember the 2 secrets to manifesting. One manifestation takes just as much energy and is the same effort as another. The fact things seem more important to us is irrelevant to the universe. We stop ourselves from the ability to manifest what's important to ourselves for so many reasons. But once you can manifest anything with purpose, practice until you can do what you consider simple things with ease and graduate yourself to practice on what you consider harder manifestations or more important manifestations. If you're ready to manifest with purpose and for your highest good, try the 6 steps I've outlined today, keeping in mind the 8 mistakes that we sometimes make, and see if your manifesting ability doesn't quantum leap. I'd love to hear from you on how things go. Thank you for joining me here today. If you'd like to know more about intuitive spiritual or life or business coaching with me or marconics multidimensional energy, please check out my website, www.connecttojoy.com, just like the show Connect 2 Joy, and follow me on Instagram at, you guessed it, Connect to Joy. Until next week, be courageous and reach higher. Just take 1 step at a time on your journey, get the help you need, and get out there and find your joy, because you deserve it.
Thank you for listening to Connect to Joy. If you love the show, make sure you rate, review, and share this podcast, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Contact the host, Carol DeChaine, with questions and comments, ideas for future episodes, or if you would like to become a guest. And remember, transformation is a journey and not an end destination. So be kind to yourself, because you are already enough to have the joyful, limitless life that you desire.